We have a brand name, and we've got a new edition of our podcast. The brand is Unfiltered with Matt and Nige. Hello, Nige.
Hello, Matt. How are you?
Yeah, I'm unfiltered. I'm good. I'm good. I'm looking forward to this. We are talking. You are somewhere else in the world. Look at you.
I am. I am on the East Coast. I'm in Orlando. There's no Mickey Mouse ears. In fact, there's no hair. We spent the last 40 minutes chatting about the fact that I've had a buzz cut, probably by accident, if I'm really honest. But my son, who you know, has always said, "Dad, you need a buzz cut. You need a buzz cut." And I think his face when he looked at me went, "Oh."
It suits you.
But
No,
it was,
here to stay. Here to stay. This is the new look.
we'll see. We'll see. Like it's not coming. I'm not visiting Turkey anytime soon. Put it that way. That was his other thing. You need to go to Turkey, Dad. I'm like, no, I don't. I'm never going to be as young and as good looking as Matt.
I can't really think. I mean, what? It's just. It used to just be a bit of fluff. Maybe we shouldn't carry on talking about your hair. And we should move on. What things are we going to talk about today? Talk about a bit of travel, bit of family, because that's kind of standard. Death of SaaS.
Bit of exercise, bit of SaaS, right? This is like, my God, the market has been bonkers for the last few weeks. So let's talk about SaaS, and then obviously with the events going on around the world, whether it's Mexico or Middle East or whatever else, you and I are part of different travel groups and just tips and tricks and what's not. Just people's perception of insurance when they need it is kind of like, oh. So I'd love to chat to you about that and get your perspective and see where you are. So that's long been hot debate. I think maybe it's a UK phenomenon, but let's see.
Yeah, no, it's totally. One of my team, Emily, our director of research, you might
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
So
yeah.
she is going on honeymoon, and so we've had the conversation just this morning. So she's going via Oman to Thailand
Okay.
for her honeymoon, and
Yeah,
even
yeah.
just in that conversation, she was just checking the details of her insurance policies and realizing it was 191 pages long. And then, of course, where do you go to, right? To check those details, you start using
Yeah.
LLMs and the rest. So I thought that's super relevant. Okay,
It's
cool.
it's really fascinating. Really fascinating. Let's start with where are you, by the way? Are you at home?
I am at home, yeah. I was away last week in Paris. Mate, I fell in love with Paris, which was lovely. I have always had a bit of a love-hate just one relationship with Paris. And I'd come around a complete 180 and I was sitting, it was the spring had sprung. The sun was kind of like, just, I
I
don't know,
saw
it
your
was just
coffee cup on
warm.
the table. Like,
It was just
here's a
gorgeous.
challenge
Yeah,
for you. When I first went to New York 20 something years ago, I didn't like it. I just didn't enjoy it. It didn't
right.
feel right. And obviously I've lived there for the last 4 years and I love the city now. Is it an age thing? Do we just like go there and we're not expecting what we get? And then as we mature, maybe that's the wrong word for you and me, as we get older, um, you get used to and you appreciate these things in different ways.
It could be. Yeah, it
Am
could
I
be.
being really
Definitely. I mean,
sentimental and
I
old?
got to the point of, and I've got a really bad habit of this, but I got to the point of looking around, thinking, huh, I could live here. Oh yes, I could. It's just like everywhere I go. But I met
By
up
the
with
way,
go on.
no, I was just going to say, like every holiday you go on, there's always a
Oh,
text back to your friends chat to go, God, this is lovely. I could buy a house here.
totally, totally.
And of
And
course, you
normally for me
never
it's
do.
skiing, but also because we are genuinely open and considering like new schooling options for our boy and where do we go, and if we
Yeah,
are going to do that, then because it's such a change and we don't want to make that change, but we might make that change, and if we are to do that, then why wouldn't we go abroad, right? I mean, like,
yeah, yeah,
all I need is an airport. My team are
yeah.
all remote. We work, from the States to Singapore, right? We are all
To be fair,
remote.
Paris is closer than Bristol.
Yeah, no, totally. And it's a really great airport. What, couple.
Or you can get the
Um,
train from the city straight into King's Cross. I mean, like, I think that train's probably quicker than the Bristol train.
Yeah, it probably is as well, right? And definitely nicer than the GWR.
There you go. Oh, hello,
So,
Bristol's beautiful.
mate, no, sorry. Yeah, I mean the train. I love Bristol. I love my city. But
Yeah, it's
equally
beautiful.
sitting out at the cafes, these glasses, some three generations having a glass of wine over there. Everyone's having their double espressos in the afternoon. Now it's just like I'm so happy. I sat there with my alcohol-free beer because I'm a new man. I'm just like, oh,
I think the one thing we have to do if we're going to ever do that is go to these places in the deepest, darkest hour. Like
yeah,
go there in the midst of winter when it's like when New York has got 6 foot of snow on the sidewalk and go, will I still enjoy it? Because like New York in April, May is stunning. New York in June, July is super hot. There's no wind. It can be quite smelly, uh, but it's still lovely. But then New York in 6 foot of snow, like, oh my, it's like it's everything all at once.
Yeah, I remember doing that when I was a youngster. I lived in Chicago for a year. Well, youngster,
Oh,
I was like in
heaven.
my early 20s. And yeah, in fact, any city in your early 20s is the best city in the world, right? And that's definitely how I looked at Chicago. But I
I
went
think
through
the
the
best
summer into the
advice for
winter going, oh, that's
the
tough.
best advice for our kids, no matter how old they are, is like go live and work abroad. Like everyone I've spoken to, it's so enriching to see different cultures. We wish we'd done it 20 years ago, and for various different reasons we didn't. We did it obviously a few years back, and it was just phenomenal. A great
Yeah.
opportunity. So
Nice. Now, I read a pretty terrific newsletter just yesterday, Nigel Walsh, maybe this morning, written by you yourself, right? And within that, a very interesting pod, which I tuned into on my dog walk, I think it was this morning. I've been a busy man. I went for a long run, then went for a dog walk. My runs are now too long to take the dog, which is really annoying for me. So, anyway. I'm distracting myself
you're a bigger
here.
dog.
That was around the death or
Hang on,
not the
but you
death
can't.
of SaaS. What?
Yeah, fascinating topic. Let's come back to the fact that you've got a Dutch hound with tiny legs later, and that's why your runs can't be too long.
Yeah. Anything over a K.
And that's just for you. The death of SaaS has been like there's two big articles that have come out, and actually you can almost trace this back a year earlier when Satya Nadella of Microsoft. It was about September. Am I dating myself here? It was definitely about a year ago when he came out and said AI and agentic AI could spell the death of SaaS as we know it. And there was a load of hype back then about what it could and couldn't do. And then, of course, fast forward a year, some of that thought machine that went into all this sort of stuff, excuse me, has now become reality. People are doing much more with not just Gen AI, but agentic AI. We had the Matt Schumer article a few weeks back that was like AI went around 83 million times. And then there's another one then from Centrini Research, which the podcast you're talking to is another podcast with Benedict Evans and Tony. And it was a really good just like recap of, hey, is it really the death of it or are we over egging it? I've listened to quite a few, as you can imagine, having spent my life pretty much in SaaS and SaaS platforms. My TLDR on it is absolutely not. Will it evolve? Yes, of course it will. It has to. And then you've got to start figuring out what facets there are of this. I mean, what's your take? What was your take after listening to the guys?
Look, I got slightly distracted because you just used TLDR as an acronym in a
Oh,
sentence
fair,
there.
fair play. Too long,
Yeah.
didn't read. It's an
No,
old
I like it.
Googleism of mine.
Mate, I don't get it, right? Well, I do get it and I don't get it. It's the same. We had the conversation around LLMs wiping off a whole load of money off the brokers, right? Last week,
That's right.
their
Yeah, that's right.
valuation, and so yes, of course, some SaaS will be gone because it is so easy. And we talked about vibe coding in one of our chats. It's so easy to spin this stuff up. And actually, if it is a piece of software that has nothing more to it than almost like empty database containment kind of fields, and it's just purely kind of like it's not even operational infrastructure. It's just a piece of technology that does X, Y, and Z. It's easy to replicate, right?
Yeah.
Whether people will be bothered to replicate, and actually for the sake of like $5 a month, I'm just going to pay for it, right? Dead easy.
You've almost
Go
got to
on.
break it down into the individual layers to work out what it is that we're looking to mitigate or reduce the cost of. So you could broadly take the SaaS license cost and go, hey, this is really interesting. But remember, that's probably the tip of the iceberg and it's horizontal, not vertical, easy integrated into your payments or your billing
Sure.
or other platforms that you've got to go into. Yes, you could take an LLM or AI and agents to do bits of these things, but then, back to the some of the conversations by people like Monica Caldas over at Liberty or Bob over at Tokyo Marine. How are you going to govern? How are you going to connect? How are you going to orchestrate? Like, it's a really it's a really lovely thing that everyone's talking about. And then Scott Galloway was on another, I think it was on his Pivot podcast, talking about, I've got hundreds, if not thousands, of users around the world that are used to this user experience and this interface, and I've got trained and I've got people doing
Yep.
it. It's not a flick the switch and switch it off overnight. Not maybe, absolutely things will change about how I develop the software, what I'm going to get up to, how I integrate. Could I simplify things? But I think the broad brush statement of it's going to replace SaaS overnight is a little bit misguided when folks actually have to run regulated controlled environments for insurance, banks, capital markets, or otherwise.
But there is a lot of SaaS that is outside of that as well, and I know that that's the domain that we sit in, right? But there's
Yeah.
small business SaaS and the rest where you've got. I think the days of like charging, a few £100,000 plus for enterprise SaaS that effectively is just a container with a bunch of kind of interactions within it, is that will get out. Like there will be some smart kids who just kids, being a bunch of grown-ups as well, but who just replicate that and put it out there. And as long as they can find distribution and traction, then they're away, right? Which is the Scott Galloway point.
Yeah, but it's always goes back to the layering piece, right? So you've got to
it
work
does.
out where you add value and where's commodity. Like it's the same old thing we've had for decades now. Like you buy for commodity, build for differentiation. Is that commodity there going up or going down? Is that differentiation there going up or going down? And I think back to this leveling up. I mean, this week's newsletter it feels like one of the better ones for quite a while in terms of all these things are converging to a really lovely joined up story. Like one of the ones was talking about IBM hiring net new people, but with different skills and capability, because the general bar has raised so much more up that actually it's got way better. So I think that's fascinating on one level. So people talk about the ceiling being raised. Someone else I read an article, they said it's not the ceiling, but the floor has gone up. And I love that phrase. In fact, that it's
nice.
like everyone's gone up, which is really cool.
Wait, two things you just reminded me. So we have a Slack channel internally that we use. Again, talking of SaaS, and then within that we have an inspiration channel, and everyone in the team just shares inspiration. So the inspiration that was I know this is slightly off topic but related. The inspiration that was shared this morning was, I think it was Wall Street Journal. Yeah. So the week the AI jobs wipeout got real. I'm like, oh, what inspiration is this? But it's talking about yeah, so, exactly. So this is talking about Nestle removing 16,000 positions, AI agents in Salesforce wiping out 4,000 customer support. Blah blah blah. I mean, this stuff is interesting. But what I did love is back to the SaaS bit was
Hang on. Where's the inspiration? That wasn't very inspirational.
That's the irony, right? It's far from inspiration at all. But I think back to the SaaS bit, which I did like. Do you ever follow on Instagram? There's a guy called Linus Bellunas. I'm not sure how you pronounce
Yes, He's got millions of followers, right? Yeah.
But he's brilliant. I love his humor. I love his spark. But anyway, I know you saw it, which was the like Bloomberg is dead post, because a lot of the stuff he puts out, right, and it's just and basically he talks about like over the weekend or whatever it is, I created 80,000 lines of code, blah, 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 and this beautiful thing that blah, blah, blah. And he talks about this magic that he created and how like in the night mode it looks wonderful and all the rest. And at the very end, didn't work. And of course it didn't work, right? And it didn't work because but you have to read it, and it's just such kind of like clickbait. But it didn't work because, of course, it doesn't plug into any of the data that's sitting there, right? Which is the proprietary
stuff. And it's got no
stuff.
governance around it and no controls,
Exactly.
and it's not fully connected.
And that's when you talk about the layers, right?
But that's like the Claude bot. I love the Claude bot piece and all the examples people were sharing. There was an article that I almost shared around all the holes and security things they found inside Claude bot, which were material and significant. I have no doubt that it will come back to life in 4 to 6 months or under a year, going, we've hardened it, it's got security controls, and now here's how we connect your world to the AI world, to the physical world, and that interchange will happen over time. And it's not the building of the technology to what extent. There's loads of things we can go into in that. It's then how do we integrate it and adopt it into our enterprise or to our everyday lives of what we're doing, right? It's there it's all well and good on PowerPoint or in Claude or in Perplexity or whatever else it might be. But now it's like, now we need to be able to adopt and engage and whatever else. So I'm really curious about it. The other one that was that got my attention, go back to SaaS, was a piece from Jason Lemkin of SaaSter talking about the system of record, because the system of record conversation always comes up, right? It always goes, that's my moat, everything sits in there. And I've got some pretty strong views about how that's being reshaped and changed and whatever else over time. But he used a really lovely term, I don't know if I can find it quickly enough, but he used a term that says about the system of record being a slow fade more than anything else. So it's like, it is your moat today, but for how long? And what you have to do to protect that now is not just go, we're okay, Jack, we've got the system of record. It's almost a case of, what are you doing to embed? And that's an important word, not bolt on, because it's like digital transformation. I know the guys at 11FS, David Breer and all those guys, had a really cool thing about the digital transformation 10 years ago in banks and insurance companies, where they had this, beaten up old car, souped up with spoilers and lights and go faster stripes and whatever else. And they called it digital transformation. Like, it's not, Robin Mertens at Instech calls it lipstick on a pig. Like, you've got to go fundamentally change that thing from the inside out. And I think we're kind of in that stage again, just with different technology.
Was it your newsletter that had it? It's a great phrase as well, which was, you're not going to be able to swim if you just read books about learning how to swim or something.
So that was Monica Caldus's article about governance as an accelerator, not as a brake, and it's something that it was really, really cool. Like that for me was it really resonated, because for years you've probably been the same. Oh, it's not, we can't do that because it's not been signed off by risk, or it's not been signed off by governance, or not been signed off by security. And you'll recall, remember what we used to do? We went from waterfall delivery to agile delivery, and then we realised we haven't got the right people in the agile delivery to have the conversation. You'll do it in innovation sprints, right? Because if the right folks aren't at the table, and then it's got to go through a workflow or process, it's not moving any faster. You've not fixed the problem. You've just made one part of the process quicker, and then you've got to still go through this funnel to get stuff done. So yeah, it was a really great quote from Monica. And then she goes into it, and the comments in there were brilliant as well. So I love it.
On that, so when I got back from Paris, I was doing a talk. Let's go with keynote, but it's a bit grand for a table of like 12 people. So I'm standing at the head of a table of some senior folk from across the industry, different like reinsurers, insurers, brokers. And it was one of the senior guys at a leading broker, let's put it that. And he was talking, so we were talking about the lack of change over the last 10, 15 years, right? Which is an interesting conversation point, full stop. And he was saying that all the chief execs woke up to, it's the stuff we talked about last week, which was around the change in their stock price, right? Because of the Insurify and the money supermarket activity with OpenAI. And it was a really interesting thing that so the perception internally for years has been, and it's such a well-trodden old rhetoric narrative, which is, we don't do anything, we don't move, in a couple of years we're out, we're printing money, it's not going to be us and all the rest. And suddenly all of the chief execs were coming down hard on their teams to what are we doing about this? And it's a really interesting, and he feels it's the first moment in his, like, I think it's 15-year tenure at that company that they have wanted to actively to pursue and change. It's like, is this a moment?
But that goes back to the whole debate about evolution versus revolution. You've heard me say insurers are in love with revolution, and you and me for the last decade have been going, insurtech, exciting, big, bold, let's go do things. But the reality is we've been in love with evolution because we were incented to do 3% or 5% or 10%. Yeah. And I think this sandwich of, hey, top-down pressure around AI's capability and speed, back to your point about change, is fundamentally different. Like, we didn't get this at the blockchain debate, did we? Like, everyone was excited about blockchain for a hot minute. Really interesting, fundamentally cool technology, but not understood by enough people or deployable at pace and scale. I think AI is different in that instance. And Oliver Berta at Allianz came out in his earnings, like record earnings, doing really well. And coverager, Sheffy and the team covered it beautifully and called out exactly what was going on from his perspective.
I
Go
saw
read
that.
it. Right,
Yeah.
it's a funny
Yeah, yeah,
read. I
yeah,
won't
yeah.
repeat it, but
There
it
are
was just
lots of stars
there
in
was
that word.
lots
Yeah,
of beep words and asterisks,
yeah,
but it was beautifully put from like a phenomenally performing leading class global
yeah,
carrier with a brilliant CEO. So for me, that like we've just got to have a reality check to go, is it real? Without a doubt, yes. How are we going to deal with it? And what are we going to do to accelerate our pace of adoption, not necessarily our pace of change? And that's the
yeah.
bit I get really excited by. Like, what is it I think everyone knows the what. How do we, it's the how they need to get focused on. Like, how do we do stuff? Which then leads me to, you and I could talk for hours. We shouldn't call this unfiltered. We should call this rambling sometimes. It's almost the how do we do stuff and what do we stop doing today that will give us capacity to do this?
A lot, right? I mean, no,
What
it's really interesting, but also how do we incentivize change as well?
what are you seeing in the world of innovation and people's lens going, hey, are we still looking at these things? Has the focus gone down in any way and all the money and energy and efforts now shifted
Yeah,
or
yeah.
what's going on?
Mate, it's really interesting. So a few really interesting things for me, right? So, and this is over the last, I say, 12, 18 months. So way less moonshot Horizon 3 activity. So everything is
Yeah,
centered on
okay.
much more transformational move A to B, right? As opposed from A to Z. So evolution as opposed to revolution, right? To coin your phrase or to use your phrase. So Horizon 1, with that, a better understanding of if we're aligning solutions to the needs of the business, let's align innovation to the business, i.e., you still have these, in some parts, still have these kind of central innovation teams, but in others you don't, right? So
Yeah.
innovation is being decentralized into the organization. Good news around that is then you're closer to the problem or identifying where the opportunity sits. The bad is these guys who, and we were talking about this a little bit on the Thursday in the London session, but these guys don't have the tools, they don't have the networks, they don't have the experience in innovating, right? They don't have that innovation muscle. So how on earth are they going to innovate? Equally, they as individuals, and this is the bit I hadn't really thought about, they are not innovators, right? They're not innovative people. They're not entrepreneurial. They are naturally fairly risk adverse, hence getting into the world of insurance in their areas that they're in, right? And that could be claims, it could be underwriting, distribution, wherever it sits. But suddenly they have a mandate to innovate, and they have a responsibility to that, and they are going to be measured against that. So you've got this kind of drive for change, and again, different companies, different levels, with this decentralized kind of responsibility for innovation, where these guys aren't tooled up to innovate as best as they can. So I think that changes, that changes businesses like ours and others, where how do we help these individuals become more innovative and connect them with what they need to be connected with, and then how do we make them aware of what's going on outside of their four walls, right? Because as you know from this industry, a lot of these guys have been in, like, especially the more senior, they've come in as juniors, they've been in the businesses for 20, 25, 30 years, and they
Yeah,
have
yeah.
never really looked outside of that organization that they're within. And so so it's being able to open their minds to what is the art of the possible, and then help them identify what the solutions are. Oh, sorry. And talking about ramblings, here I go. The last thing around that was a really interesting thing. Again, we've seen it. We've with our work with the Lloyd's market, with other big organisations, is individual teams are being tasked to create change, but the business case for change. So there's so many point solutions out there. They're a team of 5. They're a team of 10.
Yeah.
They have a need to improve something, but that need doesn't justify the return of getting the point solution in on board, right? So the cost solutions, I don't know, whatever, 1 million. The upside for them is 1 million, right?
Yeah,
There's no
yeah,
point
yeah.
doing it. Yet actually, that team of 5 have the same need as that team of 5, as that team of 5, whatever, right? Across the business. And there's like dozens of these individual teams who have the need for the same point solution. It's just they are not coordinated and collaborative enough to all come together, and no one's sitting there unifying this kind of, or centralizing this kind of need. And again, it's just one of those where I sit like, running certain, I'm going, okay, it's not core business, but helping find solutions to needs is core business. So how do we go into organizations or provide technology that gets into organizations, that consolidates needs across teams, and then finds that point solution that can fit across those. Or you go big organization, that
Yeah.
sits across them all, right?
So now you're joining all the dots back to the SaaS conversation, the innovation conversation,
Yeah.
the culture conversation, and the risk, right? Because I'm loving how all these are interconnected. You talked about point solution, but what if that point solution was someone sitting there, and again, I'm going to use the word loosely, but vibe coding the solution to it rather than bringing something in externally. I don't worry about the in and down because that's going further down into the individual thing that someone cares about. It's almost where is the overall conductor, if this is an orchestra and everything's got to sing together and
Yeah.
be in harmony, don't ever ask me to play an instrument. I'm rubbish. But where's the conductor that says we've now got 30 of those departments across 20 different countries, all doing their own things, that then brings back to Monica's point, the governance, the controls, the risk, the security, to go, actually, we've got all these things. We don't mind people having autonomy to do what they need to do in their local market or their local department, but someone's got to be able to do that with the right guardrails to make sure that we stay on the right side of the law, the regulation, and do the right things for our customers. So I think I like there was another phrase, I can't remember who said it now, that we've gone past, like when AI and Gen AI first came out, it felt like everyone went go play. Like lots of people went go play,
Yeah.
go figure out what you could do. And I read something, a quote that someone said, "We're now past the phase of letting 1,000 flowers bloom." And I love the phrase, right? Because you can just go spread all these things out there, go try what you want.
Yeah.
But you and I would have to sit there and go, we've only got this amount of capacity. This is our goal. Not all of those things in each of those departments or those individuals that haven't innovated will have the ability to take the keys and go and do that. Like you've got to almost go back and do what Renault used to call frugal innovation. How do you limit certain things and then go with this scarcity of resource? How do you now apply it to the right places to make sure you get your biggest bang and biggest impact?
Who? Yeah. So I didn't realize that was the origin of frugal innovation. You say Renault?
I'm not sure if it's the origin, but it was certainly one of the
As in
things
Renault
they
the
did.
car
I
maker.
remember as in Renault the car maker, as in
Not some
Mama.
brilliant philosopher. That's just
No,
philosopher. Sorry, I didn't know
I'll,
that. No.
I'll, remember,
Okay.
I'll dig it out.
Interesting.
I'll dig it out. We can
Yeah,
chat about
talk
it next
about
week.
frugal
But
innovation lots. Yeah, especially
it's
down
really
like
cool,
in
right?
like in LATAM and emerging territories, right? But where the money isn't available to innovate, and yet innovation has to occur to drive
But
change.
this then links back. This all links back because like what's free and in abundance, and that goes back to the very first point that we talked about. This Centrini research article goes, when super intelligence is in abundance, what happens to all these things? But actually,
Sure.
but it's not applicable to everyone. And what's the old? Okay, we're full of quotes, you and I. What's the old saying? The future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. And that's
Yeah,
true
yeah,
for AI, right? People have
yeah.
got, not everyone's JP Morgan where they're spending $2 billion a year on AI projects and $20 billion a year on technology more broadly. So how do I get a level of that and work out what's right for my organization?
I was listening to the audiobook of Sam Conniff's "Be More Pirate." I don't know if you've listened to that.
I've not seen that. No.
Yeah, so it's a few years old, and it's just I hadn't seen it on Audible, but I'd read it when it came out. So he's a mate. We used to have agencies that competed. Oh, I mean the backstory. Anyway, good friend. Let's go there. And just a really great mind. And he was all about kind of making and creating change. And he's a very beautiful man with a very big heart, and he does very ambitious and successful kind of projects. And Be More Pirate is all about literally that, right? It's be a change maker. And the book was published a few years back before the world that we're in at the moment. Let's put it. But he talked about what you just need is you basically just need an internet connection. That's what you need, and you can create change with that, right? And it's kind of like that plus a bit of technology that we have now.
Yeah.
And you really can you can just fly, and that's where then the market will be very soon. It's very saturated, and then we don't have enough time. So someone has to organize it, someone has to control it, someone has to bring it into. And I think that's where it gets interesting. Nigel, I've got to go and watch a football game. You've got to go and do a day of work.
I do love that. I'm going to do a day of work. Just to close out in a bit of something funny, you say Be More Pirate. All I think of was Dodgeball, and the guy was a pirate. Like, there you go.
Yeah,
So
that is a good movie. I love that.
it's a great movie, and I'm going to read it, and it's a great way to finish this. So, hey, as always, so good to see you. Enjoy
Yeah.
the soccer game or football game, whichever country that you're in.
Yeah,
And
thanks. Well,
remember,
I'm not really into soccer,
it's a
but
taking
it's
part that counts.
yeah, it's my well. I'm not playing, right? I'm gonna go and watch my 7-year-old play football. It's his first football game, and yeah, he learned to play football on Friday apparently at school. It's just like how did they throw that into a competition? I don't know. So let's see how he gets on.
See, I watch too many movies from too many planes like you. It's the Matrix all over. Can you fly a helicopter? I can now. So he learned on Friday.
There we
Brilliant.
go. Excellent. All right.
Good luck,
Take
buddy.
care.
Good
Have
to
a
see
good
you.
trip in Orlando, and we'll catch up soon. Cheers, fella.
Just